Hello all, Alison here and welcome back to Words and Pictures for another episode of Books, Books, Books. I've got on the table a trio of books all created with Eileen Hull's Journal Die. I think this particular die is no longer available from Sizzix, although you might find it on Etsy or eBay or somewhere. But there are many other journal dies, mini book dies, book box dies, all kinds of things that Eileen Hull has created for Sizzix. This is one that I was invited to be part of the inaugural team to make something with the journal die, which you cut from cardboard or whiteboard or matte board or anything like that. And you can really do anything you like with it. So all three of these are created using that die, and one of them is not what it appears to be. So let's take a quick look. This one you'll all recognise as being very Alison from what you know of me so far. I keep telling people that my colour palette shifts with the seasons, and I think some of you don't quite believe me. So here's what tends to happen in autumn. So there's a little sneak peek of late summer, early autumn coming up over there. And yes, as I say, one that's got a bit of a surprise in, so keep an eye out for that. I haven't filled this journal. I sort of like it too much as it is. These are paper artsy stamps on the cover with some crackle texture, all kinds of little bits of ink and paint, just creating the colours of a summer meadow. And then I've bound it with my favourite fine twine. So the die obviously cuts all the holes and seams and creases that you need. A couple of Tim Holtz metal tokens on there, ideology tokens, Courageous and Destiny. And then I just did a very simple binding in terms of what fastens it closed. That's again some fine twine. I think these are Seth Apter letters up here for the word journal. And then I just used some really cheap watercolour paper. Oh look, I say I've got nothing in here. I'm not sure I'm going to open that terribly widely and show you those, because they're very early on little things that I don't know where they were going. So it's a combination of really cheap watercolour paper that I've just ripped to give it nice torn edges, and also some music sheets. Yeah, little faces, there they are, from eons ago. So this is old music paper, and clearly I was going through a little faces phase. Let me pop this down because I think a train is about to go past, so I'm just going to pause and let that happen before we go on to the next journal. That's hopefully bypassed the train, we'll see. I'm lucky enough to live in a rural community, but if you think that's a peaceful place to be, it's really not. Today, for instance, there is chopping and mowing and sawing going on. If I tried to wait until there was peace and quiet to film, I would never film anything. So if you hear those kinds of noises in the background, just enjoy the atmosphere. So that's sort of all you need to see on that first one of these three Eileen Hull journals, I think. Very simple, and yeah, it took me by surprise that I have actually done something on the pages in between. So let's set that to one side. Here's the second one I'm going to show you, where I've done a similar thing on the inside. There's watercolour paper, which I've edged with distress ink, lovely rough texture to it there. This one's got some thick twine on it, so if you compare the two twines, this is sort of standard garden twine as opposed to this lovely fine twine that I really enjoy using. Jingle jingle go the metal tokens. This one I've bound with some darker book thread to go with these autumnal colours. I can never quite make up my mind whether this is sunrise or sunset. Not sure. Could be either, couldn't it really? These are some of my favourite sort of autumnal sunrise, sunset, distress colours. I can't necessarily give you a comprehensive list of them, but there's certainly some crackling campfire in there, I would think. Rusty hinge, ripe persimmon, seedless preserves, maybe a bit of certainly faded jeans, touch of stormy sky down the bottom, probably some gathered twigs, I would think. Dusty Concord, maybe, these purples up here, all kinds of things. If you're interested, let me know and I can feed you over to my blog where there are making of details of this, of all of these actually. So if you're interested, actually, why don't I just put them in the description below? There will be links to the making of blog posts for all three of these in the description below the video. The Scarecrow die, the Feathers and Ravens Thinlits dies are Sizzix, Tim Holtz designs again, and yeah, some of my favourite Tim Holtz meadowgrass stamps and tree branches, little flocks of birds flying away in the meadow, and as I say, again in the middle, just some, I think it came probably from The Works, which is like a sort of cheapy stationery bookstore in the UK, and I've just torn those pages in half. They are threaded through the designed holes in the die to create that finish. I don't think I opened the other one out all the way, did I? It's just, so that's a meadow on a summer's day. Beautiful Lim Brown paper artsy grasses on that one. And then you've got the meadow on an autumnal kind of a day. So yeah, my obsessions, even though the colour palettes change, my obsessions remain. So those are those two, both with that journal die. Let's set those aside again and take a look inside the third one. So here, as you can see, I've used the same journal die, but there's no external binding on this one. This is a Tim Holtz paper from one of the old paper stash rather than the new format of papers that he does. Lost and found that these are little MDF frames and word plaques from Calico Crafts, for whom I used to work on the design team. I think I may have actually made this as a design team project, thinking about it. It goes back quite a long way. And on the inside, not a journal, but a different kind of book art. So yes, it is. This is also a Calico Crafts MDF box that you put together, comes flat pack, and creates a little printer's tray or insert box into which I've created little tiny vignettes of antiquities and found objects and records of the past. There's some little ideology word stickers in there. Hold on, it says. Here's a little bottle top I filled with resin and just some tiny little Tim Holtz gears in there. That I did, oh God, decades ago, not quite decades, but certainly 10 years ago, I made a bunch of those in old bottle tops, just as little fragments. Love the Tim Holtz skull here, just a little memento mori, a reminder that we all come to dust in the end. Some rusty objects. I've rusted this key and the little roses. That's one of the little Tim Holtz resin or plastic roses that I've given the rusty treatment to. I've used some other Tim Holtz design papers to create just little play blocks. A rusted cabochon kind of brooch thing that I think I picked up in a car boot sale or somewhere like that. Some little wooden, what's the word for that? A spool, a cotton spool, a thread. And she's got a little thimble there. So somebody in this family was clearly a dressmaker of some kind. But there's also a genuine watch, the interior of a watch there as well. Watch parts, clock parts, deliciously intricate. So yes, on the other facing board, as well as the Tim Holtz design paper, some lace along the spine, is a little bit of simple collaging with some photo booth photos. Again, ideology. Remind me of the happiness. Put all my past away. A memory to hold. And just some little paper ephemera there to go with the three-dimensional ephemera. So yes, a family who are somewhat torn about whether they should be keeping or giving away all of these family mementos, family treasures, reminders perhaps of uncomfortable things in the past. A frozen Charlotte doll, that's the official name for the broken dolls. This is one of the Tim Holtz salvage dolls that I've given a distressing go to. We can have a look at creating that kind of distressed look on the ideology resin if that's something you're interested in a few minutes of fun. So those salvage dolls always have a sort of eeriness to them for me. They have an otherworldly quality, as dolls do generally. I find certainly vintage dolls, particularly the ones made of wax with glass eyeballs and real hair, all of that, a little bit spooky. So yeah, that book box, that calico tray just fitted so perfectly inside the Eileen Hull Journal Die that seemed to me made to happen. So yeah, I love the surprise that you think you've got 3 books on the shelf, and these do all stand on the shelf together, lined up. You've got your 3 book spines, and you pull out one and you find a nice little art journal. You pull out another, you find a nice autumnal art journal, and then you pull out the third and discover that you've got a hidden secret inside of it. So in terms of books, the making of books, the making of secret books, altered books, that seems to me a rather pleasurable little surprise to add to the others. So I hope you've enjoyed that. If so, do give me a thumbs up, leave any comments or questions down below. As I say, I will put links to the 3 separate blog posts for these journals so that you can find out all the product details there, rather than listing them all in the description at great length. All of those details will be in those blog posts, so you can visit those if you're interested. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you haven't subscribed already, I would love it if you hit the subscribe button, the thumbs up, leave any comments. It's such a pleasure to have your company on this creative journey. Happy crafting all.